Juliana Ayala, Brentwood High School, 10th grade. Juliana writes in part, "Tears started rolling down my eyes. My body began to shake. I didn't want to believe it. Papa, tell me you're joking, please, not my Titi." Those were the only words that came out of my mouth for minutes. She never saw my last text. If only I woke up earlier. If only I texted her last night. If only I could turn back time. I don't want to believe it either, Gigi, but it's true. What about Beatrice and Aiden? She can't leave them, especially Aiden. Though I thought my heart couldn't sink anymore, it did. The sudden realization that two of my closest family friends lost their mother, and for Aiden, the one parent he had left, broke my heart and filled my head with concerns.
Megan Andres of St. John the Baptist High School wrote in part, "Nobody ever wants to be known as a snitch. In fact, it is probably one of the worst things you could be known as in high school. Though I hate to admit it, it has always been my first instinct to expose peers, friends, and siblings when I see their behavioral shortcomings. However, I've spent the entirety of my academic career trying to suppress this urge to tattle on my classmates. I've always had an unenviable reputation, the irritating, know-it-all, perfectionist whose hand is perpetually raised. I was, surprisingly, never the most popular person. As a result, I internalized my urge to tell on others in an effort to shed my straight-laced notoriety. In the end, this hindered me from speaking up when I saw peers and teammates making reckless and dangerous decisions."
Hi Melody, this is Sheriff Toulon. I want to personally congratulate you for being chosen the Sheriff's Ambassador First Place winner of the Say Something essay contest. There comes a point where our silence holds the same level of evil as the perpetrator. We cannot be bystanders to the inequity thrown upon our friends of color, and we cannot be bystanders to the attacks thrown upon ourselves. I'd like to take this time to remind all people of color that we are not in competition with one another, but rather the overarching racism instilled in the thick roots of our world. To pluck these roots, we must not simply hear the words spoken by our counterparts, but genuinely listen. We must not single out the wilting plants from each other's communities and generalize the entire neighborhood based on that, but rather water each other's plants with the gifts of knowledge and empathy. From there, and only from there, may we adequately speak through the sound of silence. Congratulations and great work, and I look forward to hosting you at the Sheriff's Office.
Ashley Blum of St. John the Baptist High School wrote in part, "Life is meant to push us out of our comfort zones, teach us to face our fears, and shape us into the best versions of ourselves, but those things certainly do not come at an easy price."
Jose Hidalgo Burgos, Brentwood High School, 10th grade. Jose writes in part, "The idea that someone could have died and that I was the only one who knew about it terrified me. I remembered that there was a teacher at my school who always talked about the importance of mental health. Therefore, I decided to tell him about what was going on and asked him if he could do something to help her."
Alexander Collado of Brentwood High School wrote in part, "In this world of various movements and such uncertainty, when someone is very depressed and can possibly hurt themselves, you have to say something." Nellie DiStefano of St. John the Baptist High School wrote in part, "There was always something off about the new girl, whether it was her randomly hanging up on FaceTime following a bunch of yelling in the background, wearing a lot of makeup to cover bruises on her face, or always opting to wear the school's long-sleeve uniform shirt, even during the warmer months."
Lauren Ganaccio, St. John the Baptist High School, grade 11. She would choose her addiction over her family and friends, and it got to the point where I felt I could not do anything about it. We both knew she needed help, and she would only call when she was intoxicated to talk about her problems. To this day, my biggest regret is that I never told anybody about her problems or attempted to seek help.
Nicole Henry of St. John the Baptist High School wrote in part, "She must have been startled that her muteness did not scare me away. We continued this tango, me sitting by her in the hopes of getting her to tell me what was wrong, her steadfastly ignoring my presence and keeping to herself for what felt like months."
Karis Hudkins, a homeschooled student in Riverhead, wrote in part, "We had all explained away the issues they were having. We had thought away the obvious problems and pain they were going through. I know a little voice in the back of my mind had whispered that maybe it was just teen drama. Maybe she had a bad relationship with her parents and was seeking attention."
Sarah Parkhurst of St. John the Baptist High School wrote in part, "The signs were subtle at first. He became more reserved and withdrawn from the conversation in the classroom. He then was more lethargic and sluggish, appearing as if he was not fully there."
Angie Ponce, Western Suffolk Bosies, 12th grade. Angie wrote in part, "He had enough of the torturing and the pain that he decided that the only solution was to overdose and end it all. So he did, and if it wasn't for me and his little brother that found him still half alive in his room, I don't know where he would be now or how I would have handled the situation." Jonathan Tavares, Brentwood High School, grade 11. Jonathan writes in part, "He has thanked us several times for us opening to him that day. Had we not, we would not have another great friend, a friend who stayed with us for years later, all because of our friendly gesture that we didn't think much of at the time."